Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair, and I want to thank my colleague Mojo Mathers for that speech, because the theme that she took of what does this mean for families is something that every member of this House should think about tonight. And having been on the receiving end of a few lectures from people on the other side of the House about what is important for strengthening families in our society, it would seem that those high-minded principles about supporting family have gone out the window with the National Party in this particular piece of legislation, except they haven't. Because members like Simon O'Connor on the other side of the House know full well that this piece of legislation runs counter to building strong families and strong communities in our country. It is an absolute joke if members opposite think that what is now in the provisions in the Minister's SOP for employees to have a right to refuse to work on Easter Sunday means anything at all. We get lectures about how we don't understand what happens in business. Well, Mr Hudson, put yourself in the shoes of a low-income New Zealander who's been lucky enough to get a job, probably paying only minimum wage in the retail industry, and the word comes around that people are needed for Easter Sunday. What do? Do they take that time to spend with their family, the precious hours, the few that they get? This might be their second job. Or do they take that time and say, I better say yes? I better say yes because I don't know where the next set of hours are coming from, because I don't know whether my job's secure enough, because my rate of pay is so low that I have to scratch out every single hour. That's not supporting families. This bill and these clauses do not provide choice. They do not provide choice for employees. And we know full well, Mr Chair, that the practice of an employment relationship is not even. The reason we have laws like the Employment Relations Act in New Zealand, and that Act itself recognises the uneven nature of that relationship, is because we need to protect employees. And this bill doesn't do that. It pushes people away from that. We need, Mr Speaker, in my view, Mr Chair, in my view, to take a stand on this piece of legislation. I am not a person, as many of my colleagues will know, who shies away from going into shops. I'm somebody who enjoys it. I'm actually one of those rare males, Mr Chair, who enjoys getting into a shop, and I'll take the chair down to David Jones the next opportunity I get, sort him out with a few items from the menswear section there. But there is no need, there is no need whatsoever. No, David Jones Wainua is the next store that's opening. It's only in Lambton Quay at this stage. But there is no need, Mr Chair, for us to break into the very few days that we currently protect and say should not be broken into in terms of this kind of law. Mr Chair, I think National Party members might want to reflect on a piece of legislation where the very people who are charged with implementing it don't want it. That's what they've managed to set up here, is a piece of legislation where they've dumped it all on territorial authorities who've come back and said, no, don't do it that way. It's too complicated, it's not going to work. They have managed to put themselves in a position where the very process by which they want to implement this has been held up as one that won't work. Lawrence Yule, when he came to the committee, said, please don't do it by bylaws. They're complicated, they're subject to appeals, they're subject to judicial challenges. This is the head of the local government New Zealand Council saying to the National Party, you've got it wrong. And it is, as my colleague Claire Curran says, because they've tried it every other way and Parliament's rejected it. But they come back again and again, and this time they're making it the responsibility of local government to try and carry this off. It's not good enough. If the government wants to do this, it needs to pass a law that applies at a national level. I would oppose that as well myself, Mr Chair. And I acknowledge strongly that there are people in the community who say, why not give us a go to do that? But Mr Chair,
Grant Robertson.
Mr Chair, I won't take the whole of this call, but I acknowledge that there are people in the community who say, why not give us the option? Why not give us the choice? This is the time for Parliament to show leadership. This is the time for Parliament to stand up and say, there are times when Parliament can say no. We want to support families. We want to give workers some protections about time off to spend with their families. And we want to uphold the rights of all New Zealanders to not feel that every single given moment has to be taken up with work. We have a chance, Mr Speaker, again, to send a message out that this House respects the rights of New Zealanders and their families. We respect the fact that there are 363.5 other days that people can spend shopping, and we don't need to pass this bill.
Mr Chair.